The Nationals avoided the sweep against the Philadelphia Phillies, but even furthermore than that, MacKenzie Gore had a very good start, but also CJ Abrams got banged up just a little bit. What did we learn from this Phillies series? Well, the kids might not be that bad.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And of course, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your pods. Hit that subscriber button for me as well, including over on YouTube. Later on in the show for today, the Nationals head out west for the next week and a half as they take on the Giants starting tonight at 9:45 p.m. Eastern time. And then they head to Oakland right across the Bay Bridge there, or I don't know if it's across the Bay Bridge. Whatever it is, they head across the bridge there in Oakland, take on the A's at the Coliseum. This is going to be the last time they will be playing in the Coliseum later on this week. I think that's a little intriguing. We'll discuss that later on in the week and, of course, talk about their West Coast trip as they take on the Giants, the A's, and then the Los Angeles Dodgers with Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, all that. We'll have that covered in the third segment of today's show. And in the second segment, it is a Monday, so you know what that means for all the everydayers out there. It is a Nat Stock Report Monday. Who's been up? Who's been down? We'll get you all the latest from individual performances, including some of the Nationals' top players from this last week and some of the worst players from this last week. We'll cover it all, and I'll give you a little hint. Joey Gallow made an appearance, but is he up or is he down? I'll tell you who it is a little bit later on in the show, but let's start off recapping this Nats weekend. And before that, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to PrizePicks, and that is where you'll find us there. The Nationals, they lost 2 of 3 against the Philadelphia Phillies, which is something that, you never want to see. The Nationals, when you are at home playing against the Philadelphia Phillies, number one, Nationals fans, we all know this. If you were at the game, I was at multiple games this weekend, and of course, the stadium is slightly dominated by Phillies fans. Anytime that you have a good Phillies team coming to town, their fans are going to show up. It's always been that way. It always will be that way, unfortunately. That's just the way that Philadelphia is. They've got a rabid fan base, and of course, they will take advantage of places where you're not that good and your team is not all too great. They're going to take over that stadium, and that is kind of what they did over the weekend at Nationals Park. But there were some positives, some negatives. The Nationals dropped the first 2 games, but then you have your ace on the mound. And yes, I said it, your ace on the mound with MacKenzie Gore on Sunday. And MacKenzie Gore, in my opinion, was one of his better starts in quite some time. And of course, it was his second start of the season, but it was kind of good to see him bounce back after getting roughed up a little bit in his first start of the season. MacKenzie Gore went 5 2/3 in yesterday's contest, had 5 hits, a couple strikeouts, a couple pair of walks as well, but had 1 home run given up. But still, I thought MacKenzie Gore's stuff was electrifying. And again, as we kind of get acclimated to the season, the expectations for Gore, they're going to go up. Because one of the bigger knocks on Josiah Gray over the last few weeks, Josiah Gray hasn't made it out of the 5th inning yet. That is bad. That is not good for someone who is really supposed to be taking this next step up in his journey and kind of developing here in DC. And a lot of people had hope for him being a frontline starter potentially after having an all-star campaign in the first half of last season. MacKenzie Gore seems to kind of go down that route and has really kind of taken advantage of his opportunity here and has been looking like the better pitcher. Now, the stuff, just kind of comparing it to Josiah, MacKenzie Gore has always had the better stuff. Now, Josiah Gray, I think, at times kind of controls himself a little bit more. And I thought this was a little bit interesting over in spring training when Josiah Gray was asked by MacKenzie Gore. I think it was one of their kind of preseason, like Nationals content videos where they're doing the spring break stuff and questions. And Josiah Gray was asked, like, what's one thing that you would like to take from MacKenzie Gore? And he said to kind of keep his emotions in check. I've never really thought that with MacKenzie Gore. I think that's always kind of been one of his knocks, in my opinion, that MacKenzie Gore kind of is very up and down. When something bad happens, you kind of see him not like pouting or anything, but you see that it affects him at times. I think going into this year, though, after getting a little bit of a jam in yesterday's contest, you kind of saw him stay a little even more keeled. That is something you haven't seen just yet from MacKenzie Gore, and at least from this last year. Now, 25 years old, coming off a very good first full season, in my opinion, going up against a really strong Philadelphia Phillies lineup, MacKenzie Gore held his own. You can't come out of that start yesterday and say that you don't feel encouraged with him. MacKenzie Gore is going to be just fine here. I don't think that's going to be an issue for this team as well. Having 6 strikeouts against that Philadelphia Phillies team, Bryce Harper going down silly at one point in his at-bat against Gore. These are all things that you just have to kind of put in your piggy bank, and it's going to add up eventually. And then before you know it, you'll have time to deposit that money, and you'll hopefully have a good front-of-the-line pitcher when it's all said and done, because that's the road that I think MacKenzie Gore is going down at this moment in time. Gore has been great. He has been great even down in spring training. While his numbers, you might look at him and say, well, he wasn't all that great. But still, look beyond that. MacKenzie Gore's got filthy stuff. This is going to be someone, in my opinion, as we kind of get used to the season, as we continue to see him grow, you're going to realize this is not going to be just your middle of the rotation kind of Sam kind of guy. He's going to be a frontline starter, and whether it's for us or it's a different team down the road. But right now, he's a Washington National, and he's going to be a damn good and a damn bad problem for the rest of the National League East. But MacKenzie Gore was awesome yesterday. Seeing all of his stuff, his curveball, his changeup, getting in action as well. MacKenzie Gore was awesome. Well, let's talk about this because I do want to mention it. CJ Abrams does have a little bit of an injury, which you don't love to see. Friday night's contest, slid into second base there with his left pinky. He has a bone bruise on that pinky. And of course, that's not what you love to see because he's been really good this season. Having 2 tape measured home runs, one against the Pittsburgh Pirates this last week, one in the opening series against the Cincinnati Reds, 430 feet, 107 miles per hour off the bat. CJ Abrams having that left pinky bruise, it's whatever. It doesn't seem like it's a huge deal, but it did keep him out of Saturday and Sunday's contest. I'd be interested to see what the Nationals kind of do with that. I saw him signing autographs at yesterday's game. I don't think the Nats are going to be all too concerned and kind of all too conservative when it comes to Abrams, but the way the Nationals should handle this early on in the season, just wait. You don't want to have CJ Abrams go down, and the way that he's been hitting, the way that he's been fielding, just the way that he has kind of taken control of the clubhouse, in my opinion. You don't want to see CJ Abrams go back out there prematurely when he's just at 90% or whatever he may be, and then go and re-injure his finger. It's just not worth it. So the Nationals kind of taking these last 2 days off. Yeah, it might be a little bit frustrating. Should he go on the IL? No, I don't think that's necessary at this moment in time, but kind of play it slow with him. This is going to be someone who will be a very valuable piece to this organization, not just for this year, but hopefully for years to come, in which, by the way, why didn't you extend him this offseason? That's a different topic for a different day. Probably on tomorrow's show, we'll be talking about that if he plays in tonight's contest. But with what CJ Abrams has done this season, you're seeing a lot of different things about this guy. Number one, the power's still there. The stolen base threat will always be there as long as he gets on base, which he has been so far. The contact rate so far this season has been tremendous. Everything about CJ Abrams so far this year is what you would have hoped for. The steps that you have wanted to see for quite some time that you saw in the middle of last season, it's doing it again. He's doing it again, and he's taking another step up. And in my opinion, I think it's pretty safe to say that this is going to be someone who will be making an all-star push, hopefully sometime in the next month or so, as people kind of start to get their ballots together, start kind of getting their ducks in a row, and start kind of talking about all-star appearances. I think CJ Abrams will be right in the middle of that, and that is where he should be, by the way, because the way that he has been playing to start off the season has been wildly encouraging. He didn't start off this hot last year, but still, now you see it. Now you see why CJ Abrams is so prized by this Nationals team, and that is why I think the Nationals, they're going to have their shortstop for years to come if they play their cards right, if they can develop him, if they can continue to get him the reps and give him the opportunities to take those next steps, I think Abrams will be right there as one of the better shortstops in the National League for quite some time. That is how good this guy is. So let's take it easy with him. Day to day with the bone bruise on that left pinky. Don't rush it. Let him get to 100%. Let his body tell him when he needs to go, when he doesn't. We'll just see what the Nationals do. But I trust David Martinez. I trust the Nats. We'll see what happens with Abrams. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals there. And that is where you'll find us a little bit later on. Now, let me tell you guys about a Nats stock report. Who's been up? Who's been down? I'll get you all the latest from individual performances from this Nationals team after I tell you guys about our good friends over at PrizePicks. And guys, spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from Diamond in your PrizePicks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Get on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. And of course, PrizePicks has something for every sports fan, from baseball and basketball to league legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham, all in the same entry. It's so much fun. I do not want you to use this. And of course, you can check player stats, like if Steph Curry's playing tonight, maybe you want to go on points or under, whatever it is, you can check it out over at PrizePicks. And of course, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is code LOCKEDONMLB. And now we get back into it, as the Nationals are pretty good. Not all too bad. But the individual performances and kind of the prospects, not really the prospects, but the younger guys on this team, that is what we care about. So let's get up with it. Stock up, stock down. Of course, we start up, they stock up for second baseman Luis Garcia. Luis Garcia has had a pretty damn good start to the season. I don't know about you guys, but I think the momentum for Luis Garcia not starting as your second baseman on opening day was really real. I think the Nats showed that by the way they kept up Trey Lipscomb. They sent down Trey Lipscomb to AAA to then get work at second base. The Nationals are very pushy when it comes to Garcia. They have made that very clear over the years with David Martinez comments about him in the past, about how he's had some lazy mistakes. Mike Rizzo, when he got sent down at last year's deadline, they wanted to see him kind of prepare a little bit more. The Nationals have showed how they feel about Garcia. But the big difference with that is that Garcia has never really kind of taken this job and just run with it like a lot of us has thought so. So seeing him after kind of struggling in spring training, kind of getting called out a few different times by David Martinez for dumb mistakes like getting picked off, lazy footwork over at second, whatever it is, Garcia has been good to start the season. He hasn't been tremendous. He's had some hiccups, but still at the plate, a 902 OPS, a big RBI in yesterday's win against the Phillies. Luis Garcia has been hitting the ball well. He's got to continue that, though, because as soon as he does make some mistakes and it starts to pile up, that is when he gets himself in trouble. And, of course, David Martinez will look at Trey Lipscomb or even Nasim Nunez and say, Luis, your time's done, man. He doesn't have any more options left. The time is now for Garcia, so he's been taking advantage of his opportunities in the first week and a half of the season. Hopefully he can do that just a little bit more. Stock down for Josiah Gray. Josiah Gray, listen, we talked about it a lot here now. Josiah Gray, I think at this moment in time, the Nationals, they're not considering Josiah Gray to be a frontline starter. Hell, maybe not even a middle of the rotation kind of guy. I think if the Nationals were to get Josiah Gray to be a solid 3-4 starter in a good team, in a good rotation, I think the Nationals will take that as a win. And hell, maybe even a 5 starter at this point. Josiah Gray has not looked good to start this season. Gave up 6 earned runs in his last outing. And of course, the one before that on opening day, 7 earned runs. And he has not made it out of the 5th inning just yet. It's only 2 starts. You should not be wildly concerned, but still, Josiah Gray just kind of has to find some consistent movement. He's got to find some consistency in his game. You've seen it at times where he kind of struggles pounding the zone. Then at times, his fastball command is a little wacky out of there. I think when it comes to guys who have a lot of a deep arsenal, the way that Josiah Gray has, can throw 5-6 pitches, it kind of, at times it can confuse batters, but still, it doesn't really necessarily make you perfect your craft. I don't look at Josiah Gray and say, oh, he's got this pitch. Because if you remember coming out of the minor leagues, when the Nationals traded for Josiah Gray, when he was a top 50 prospect from the Dodgers, people were talking about his fastball and how he's going to get a ton of swing and misses. It's kind of one of those things where it's hard to detect, but we have not seen that up to this point in his major league career. And that has been the frustrating part for Josiah, because he's kind of reinvented himself in a way that has become this finesse pitcher. And so far this season, it just has not worked out to him, as he's given up 6 earned runs and 7 earned runs in his first 2 starts. And again, has not made it out of the 5th inning just yet. So stock down for Josiah Gray. Hasn't been a good start, but you know who has had a decent kind of comeback here? There's a stock up for Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo, listen, he's going to be a controversial figure here with this Nationals team. You're either going to love Joey Gallo or you're going to hate Joey Gallo. I personally kind of like Joey Gallo. Number one, the defensive side of things, I can't say that enough. Everyone kind of knows Joey Gallo for being this big power hitter, someone who's going to hit the ball 500 feet and 600 feet on a Tuesday. That's not really just what he is. You've seen him play valuable defense over at first base. You can put him in the outfield. Hell, you can even probably put him in really anywhere. Joey Gallo is a very good defensive fielder, so let's start off right then and there. And then, of course, his bat. Over the last week, hit multiple home runs. You've seen him, the tape measure shots. When Joey Gallo connects, they're not just barely over the fence. They are way the hell out of the park. That is what you want to see. And this is why the Nationals got Joey Gallo to sign here over the last winter, because they know they have one big, huge hole in this offense. It is a lack of power. Joey Gallo is not going to fix everything with just a few at-bats, but still, you see the point. When Joey Gallo can hit home runs, and when you have C.J. Abrams and Lane Thomas on the base path ahead of him, that is a good thing. That is a great issue that the Nationals could have, because you need someone to drive in those speedy guys who are in the 90th and 99th percentile as far as sprint speed goes. Both those guys being on the base path, Joey Gallo at the plate, Joey Gallo hitting for power, that is a great recipe of success for this Nationals offense in 2024. And I think at some point in time, you're going to be looking at this and say, this is a pretty good marriage, and it's a match made in heaven, in my opinion. I'm not saying Joey Gallo is going to revive himself. I'm not saying Joey Gallo is going to have a 30, 40 home run season with this club, but I think Joey Gallo will have a pretty valuable role with this team. And I think you're starting to see as to why the Nationals signed him, because he hasn't been all too bad yet. He has not. Over the last week, he's kind of gotten it back together. Yes, of course, he hasn't been all too great. He's batting over 300 in just his last week. He was awful in the first series against Cincinnati, but Joey Gallo will be just fine, I think, for now. So good luck, Joey Gallo. We're rooting for you. Stock down for Nationals third baseman, Trey Lipscomb. Trey Lipscomb, after his first 2 games, I was ready to call him an all-star. I was ready to call him the next Ryan Zimmerman. I'm joking about all those things, but Trey Lipscomb looked really good his first 2 games. He looked like he belonged, which is most importantly, in my opinion, playing very good defensively over at third base. He still is, but this is more of a stock down for his offensive performance. He has a 273 OPS over the last week. And if you're locked on National every day, first off, thank you. Second off, you know I value an OPS. 273 OPS is not going to get the job done, especially over at third base in today's game. I think Trey Lipscomb will be just fine. He's going against some really good pitching. He saw the Pirates team, which are, by the way, really good team right now. Very hot. The Philadelphia Phillies, good team as well. I'm not all too concerned about the Nats moving forward with him, but Trey Lipscomb hasn't been all too great. You kind of see him struggle just a little bit, but still, I think you'll be just fine with Trey Lipscomb as your everyday third baseman for at least the next handful of weeks. See how he can do, and if not, send him back down, get him reps at second base and third base, and kind of mix him around the diamond and see what the Nats do with him, because Trey Lipscomb is a good talent. You've seen it. You can see why the Nationals are high on him. You can see why this Nats team kind of had him up even longer than James Wood and Brady House and Dylan Cruz. They believe in Trey Lipscomb. You can see it right now. You see as to why they put him in the lineup and why they're comfortable with him over at the hot corner. But Trey Lipscomb, offensively speaking, has not been up to his game as of late. Stock up for Nationals bullpen arm, Jordan Weems. Jordan Weems might be one of the better stories of this Nationals team over the last year. He had a very impressive 2023 season, and now you start to see him kind of in that role where he's going to be pitching the seventh inning, and let's say in a winning scenario, Nats are up 3-2. Seventh inning, this is the way Davey Martinez would like for it to go. Seventh inning, come in with Jordan Weems. You have Hunter Harvey in the eighth inning blowing gas by people, and have Kyle Finnegan come in for the save. But Jordan Weems has been one of the best kept secrets for the Nats for quite some time. This is someone who I believe was drafted from the Boston Red Sox as a catcher back in the day. He's transitioned to a pitcher from 2011 when he was drafted, made his debut in 2020. The Nationals, they've made pretty good movement with Jordan Weems so far. He's been really good. He's been nails for this team. And I think he's going to be a part of this bullpen for quite some time. As he kind of does get up there in age, Jordan Weems has been good. The Nationals like this guy. He's part of this A bullpen. He is part of this team and hopefully part of the foundation moving forward. Yes, he is a little bit older. He's on the older side, being in his 30s. But still, Jordan Weems has been damn good. This is someone you could trade at the deadline, or you hold on to him and see if he can help you for this Nats team down the road, because Jordan Weems is starting to establish himself as a guy, as someone who's going to be reliable. And also, when it comes to bullpen arms, you always kind of talk about, when you're out in the All-Star game or whatever, and they're talking about name this bullpen guy, they always have some weird story. Pitchers always have some weird story, especially bullpen pieces. It's like, this guy was drafted as a catcher. This guy was drafted as a third baseman, transitioned to a pitcher, and now he's an all-star. I'm not saying Jordan Williams is going to be an all-star, but this weird story behind him, it just kind of makes sense as to why the Nationals kind of stubbed their toe and all of a sudden found a good setup guy maybe for this team down the road, because Jordan Weems, again, has been electric in my opinion. So thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Next, let's preview this West Coast trip as the Nats take on the San Francisco Giants tonight. But before that, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. And guys, Game Time is the best. And of course, if you get a Nationals games like you have and just like I did over the weekend, you want to be with Game Time, because Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch with killer last-minute deals. All-in prices, views from your seat, their lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Like, I was just there. Yesterday's contest, I got brunch, and then I was like, you know what? We're going to go to the Nats game. What I did as I was on the Metro there, just a 10-minute Metro ride, I got on Game Time, a few clicks away, and bam, I had cheap seats and, of course, the best view in the house that I could see on the app right then and there. I want you guys to experience that as well, because it is a great feeling. You're driving there to the game, or you're Metroing, or you're Ubering. You just open up Game Time. You don't have to worry about reserving anything. Go to Game Time. They will have you covered. And, of course, last-minute tickets, and, of course, flash deals and zone deals. That is what I got. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Game Time app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And Blake Snell, one of the bigger acquisitions from the San Francisco Giants this last offseason, makes his season debut tonight against the Nats. And of course, Trevor Williams is on the bump tonight. So as they're at Oracle Park, it's going to be a pretty rowdy house. The Giants fans are going to be excited to see their guy, Snellzilla, taking the mound, the former NL Cy Young, as he diced up the Nats multiple times last season. He's kind of been a thorn in the thigh of this Nats team for quite some time now. You don't really see him all too much, but when the Nationals do, I feel like he's Cy Young Blake Snell. So that'll be interesting to see because Jim Hickey was his former pitching coach as well. So maybe he has some inside stuff on Blake Snell and kind of what he can do best, what he can do worse, how this Nats offense can take advantage of him. But the Nationals have Trevor Williams on the bump. We all know. Hope for the best. But the Nationals, they get on this West Coast trip. You got late night baseball starting tonight, 9:45 first pitch at Oracle Park. And of course, you have the College National Championship tonight too. It's going to be a busy night in DC sports, but you have the Giants. Then you go over the bridge, have a day off in Oakland on Thursday. And then on Friday, you start in Oakland. And then Dodgers next week. It's going to be a tough road trip. You have the A's to kind of give you a little break in between, but I think this Giants team could be really good. I think the Giants could be kind of the sneaky team out of the NL West this year to kind of take control, maybe snip in a postseason spot. But they start tonight. You have Trevor Williams against Blake Snell. Obviously, you don't love that matchup. You don't love that matchup if you're Joey Gallo. You do love that matchup if you're Lane Thomas, who kills left-handed pitching. And of course, C.J. Abrams as well. Kind of the odd man out here, but we'll see what the Nats can do. Take advantage of him. Blake Snell, after having a weird offseason, not really getting acclimated, having a normal spring training since he signed so damn late because of Scott Boras, who had one of the worst offseasons imaginable. But we'll see what the Nats can do. Take advantage of Blake Snell and see if you can seal yourself a win on his season debut. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'll check you out tomorrow as we will discuss tonight's game. Blake Snell's first start of the season. Did the Nationals take advantage of him? Hopefully so. We'll have that on tomorrow's Locked On Nationals. Have a good one.